right, we'll convene the Monday, August 12th meeting of the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors. And have, at this time, ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have approval of the minutes of the meetings of July 22 and July 30th of 2019. I have one item I think was incorrect under resolution number 19-196. It was where we had the three motions on the lead-based paint. I think Ann's first motion, where she said it was optimal match, was for 300,000, not 196,000.
No, it was for 196.
It was 196? Okay, then I stand corrected. I didn't have the tape to go back, but I could have swore that the original resolution was 300,000 and that,
The facts that came before us were 196.
okay.
I
All right,
could review the tape, if you can do that.
yeah, okay.
I mean,
I-
unless you want to,
No,
unless you,
no, I'm fine with that. I know there was discussion on the
I
300,000.
remember my motion because it was awful. It said 196 with no other strings attached, which is really a very nicely technical motion.
All right,
I wasn't even here.
oh,
I guess I'll ask for that to be reviewed, and if the record is correct, then we'll leave it. If
you know
not,
what date, which one that was? Was it 22nd or 30th?
yeah, it was that special.
I'll make a motion to table the approval of the minutes for July 30th.
I would ask if we have any other corrections to those minutes of July 30th
Can,
or July 22nd.
we could approve the July 22nd.
That was my next thought.
Okay,
That's-
so
I-
I think a motion to approve the July 22nd minutes would be in order.
So moved.
I had a motion to table. You want to declare that one dead first?
Okay. Dies for lack of a second.
Thank you.
All right, so let's I guess we'll start over on the July 22nd minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd as
And I will,
presented.
and I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the July 22nd meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Now July 30th. I'll make a motion to table and have it reviewed for accuracy.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, now we move to consent items on the agenda.
Very first meeting I've ever had with no consent items.
Yep,
Not complaining, just
okay.
pointing it out.
We have procurement procedures is item number 4 on the agenda. We have a proof of publication procurement for 2 small 2019 SUVs.
A motion to approve the proof of publication.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried. So we have receipt of quotes under item 4B, 2 current model year small SUVs for the health and zoning departments.
Okay, for the SUV quote, we had a quote from Anderson Weber for $27,792. We received a quote from Mike Finnan Ford for $23,052.20. We received 2 from Richardson Buick. The first one was for a Honda CR-V, and that was $24,873. We also received one for a GMC Terrain, $25,300. $346.70. We received one from Rundy Chevrolet in the amount of $23,811.60. We received a bid from Talkie Motors in the amount of $22,612. Turpin Dodge in the amount of $25,700. We received 2 quotes from Victory Ford. For 2019, it was $22,637.50. For a 2020 model, it was $24,465.50.
What's your pleasure?
I guess the only question I just have is typically do we send those back to the department heads, the directors, or their boards, or both? Thank you.
This one, Chris and our facility superintendent and I reviewed I had him review these.
He has taken that, okay. So I'll make a motion to receive and file the quotes and to defer to administration to come back with a recommendation for purchase.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to refer for review. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. 4C, receipt of quotes, one current model year Dodge Grand Caravan for the Veterans Affairs Department.
All right, we received 2 quotes from Talkie Motors, $26,793, and from Turpin Dodge, $22,494.
Okay. And the same question then, was this you and Chris?
No, this is forwarded to the Director Renison for review.
Okay.
Make a motion to forward the bids to the director for approval.
Second.
Recommendation.
I will second that.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to refer the quotes to Randy Renison from Veterans Affairs for his review and recommendation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried, 3-0. All right, now we're in item number 5, public hearings. We have we go right to 5B. We don't have any proof of publication for public hearings. 5B, public hearing amendment to zoning ordinance, ZC number 07-19-19, Dennis and Renee Schuler, R1, rural residential, to R2, single-family residential. So we'll turn it over to our interim zoning administrator, Tammy Henry.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, the applicants? Down. Is that better? Okay. The applicants are requesting rezone from R1 rural residential to R2 single-family residential, 1 acre, to be allowed to create a plat with less restrictive setbacks for a future home site for their daughter. The property is located, to create a plat with less restrictive setbacks, I'm sorry. The property is located 2.1 miles east of the city of Urquhartsville along Boy Scout Road and is legally described as Lot 1 of Banky Acres, Section 34, T90 North, R1E, Jefferson Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by Dennis and Renee Schuler. Zoning in the area includes R1 rural residential to the north, the south, the east, and the west, R2 single-family residential to the north and west, C1 Conservancy to the north and to the south, and R2 single-family residential to the west on zoning case number 010203 was to allow for a residential subdivision for single-family homes. There are no special use permits attached to this property. There are no previous rezoning cases attached to this property. 9 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners on Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 12, Land Use, page 179, Objective 3.5, and page 180, Objective 6.4, and Chapter 9, Agriculture and Natural Resources, page 135, Objective 5.1 may apply to this case. So as you can see, this is the 1 acre site that they're looking to build onto. And it is zoned residential already. This is just to not make this sit back too far. So, and there's an existing entrance that's been, that was applied for there in, I believe it was 2003. So there has been an entrance approved there already.
Tammy, the difference, the setbacks would be 80 feet if it was R1 and 50
Right,
feet
50 if
for
it's,
R2.
if it's the R2. So it's really just about how far back this sits. So it's gonna take up less of the field if they don't have to come back as far.
And less stormwater runoff.
Yeah, less stormwater runoff, just less issues in general.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. All right, the public hearing is open. If anyone is here and would like to speak on this issue, please approach the podium at this time. And if you do so, please give your name and address. You have to go
Right
up
up
to the
here.
podium.
Silence was getting to you, right?
I'm Dennis Schuler, 17076 Boy Scout Road, and just requesting this rezoning for the less restrictive setbacks to move the house a little closer to the road. The way the lot lays for a walkout, it'd be less dirt to move, and it would preserve more of the pasture in the back.
Okay,
Excellent, thank you.
questions? Okay, thank you. Tammy, you have anything else?
No, this is just actually, when we change these over, they're actually better. Environmentally, we don't have any, as much pavement in front, and so it's actually one we always encourage if they're doing them.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in the public hearing on this topic?
Tammy, I saw in the notes it was a 4-0 vote on the zoning board for
Yes.
approval.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Okay, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the rezoning in this case. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to suspend the requirement this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the requirement that it be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes in the official zoning map and that the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment in portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0. It is approved. Okay. All right, next case would be, let's see here, case, it's a ZC number 07-20-19, Wayne and Teresa Kramer, and Matt and Alyssa Kramer, A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural residential.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to Tammy Henry.
All right. The applicants are requesting rezone from A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural residential. 1.5 acres to construct a new home on the farm to allow the next generation to transition into the farming operation. The property is located 1.52 miles north of the city of Farley along Kramer Road and is legally described as the southeast of the northeast, section 36, T 89 North R2W, New Wine Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by Wayne and Teresa Kramer. Zoning in the area includes A1 agricultural to the north, south, east, and west. There are no special use permits attached to this property. There are no previous rezoning cases attached to this property. 3 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners and the city of Farley was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agriculture and Natural Resources, page 134, Objective 3.1, and Chapter 8 Housing, page 122, Objective 12.7 may apply to this case. So as you can see this little hatch marked area here, it's kind of hard to see it in the way it's sitting there, but that is where they're asking to put the new home site so that the family can come out, build a home there, and continue to assist in the farming operation. Mom and dad are not ready to leave their home at this point, yet they're starting to try to transition the farm into with the children.
When is the home gonna be built?
When is the home going to be built? I believe the home is going to be built within the next year.
Then the other question I had was, I know that one of our commissioners was objected to this. Do you know why Ms. Caitlin was opposed?
Yes, she was opposed because it's sitting on the same 40 as the existing home. Let me see if I can get you a better picture of it. She was opposed to it because of its location was sitting on a 40 already that we have a home on. Here, this one will show it better. So this is the location of where the new one's gonna go. And this is the location of where the existing farm home is. So Ms. Caitlin was opposed to that because it was putting two homes on a 40. And what they've done is they've taken, and in the plat that is here today as well, what they've done is in this process, instead of allowing, so here's a 40, and if we put two homes on this 40, what they've done is they've taken another 40 and locked that up in saying that another home can never be built on that. So in theory, they could come in here and ask for a home on this 40. So if they sold this to someone, that 40 acres would allow a home. So this was putting the home on the same 40, actually trying to use less farmland by doing that.
Do we have this issue frequently? I mean, she objected to another one.
This does not happen all that often, but it did happen twice in that meeting.
Of putting a second home on that initial 40 acres.
Yes. Yes. And the reason that was being done was to try to actually preserve by not putting them down. Again, they could have come in and sold 40 to their son and put it in another location. They were trying to keep it as close for the farming operation as they could by keeping it in that same 40.
Is that anywhere in the application, and should it be if it's not?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
That explanation that it's two on the same 40 as opposed to not doing that, is that in the application somewhere?
It's not, and it's not, and it hasn't been in the past, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't do that.
It looks like to me that this is a way to preserve cropland, and by tying up the other 40, they could move it to another 40 and take land out of production legally. And is there any case history on this going back, Tammy?
As far as I'm aware, when the A2 came up, I started in the department about 6 years ago, and the A2 had just been created before that. I see Mr. Demmer's here. Mr. Demmer was part of that process, and it was there, and it was created, my understanding is it was created to try to help families stay with the family farm, to try to assist the young family members who are trying to get into the farming operation, and the banks won't give them the money. And a lot of these have to be platted off because of the banks won't give them the money for even a 40-acre piece. So that's where this estate kind of purposing started happening. And again, it's about getting families back on the farm. And I understand the concern about density, but we haven't changed the density. And the reason we haven't changed the density is because we're not allowing another home on another 40. So because of that, that's what keeps the density down.
Right, and as you and I were talking before the meeting, the concept of estate planning, I don't see that anywhere in the A2 language. That's not a term that's in our zoning ordinance at all.
And I understand your concern about that. When I came on board, that was some of the terminology that was being used, and It is really, it may not be in there, but it is what they're trying to do. It's for estate planning. It's for family farmers trying to figure out how they're gonna move to the family, or the farming to the next generation. And again, that's something in the ordinance that we can address. We can look at that at some point and change those things. It's about tweaking what needs to be tweaked, I guess, at some point.
Over the years, there's been discussion, with this A2 about not creating subdivisions.
Right.
A backhanded way of creating a subdivision. Certainly does not appear to be the case here. They could actually have, a home on every 40. But they're not wanting to do that.
But not in the same name.
Right.
So we wouldn't allow one name to come out here and pop a house on every 40, because that would be the back way of putting a subdivision
Right.
together. So they would have to be in different names.
I just thought it was unusual that we had an objection to this, because I'd always thought it was fairly standard. And I just wondered if you knew the rationale for that, because it appeared twice before us.
And it was
and this
because
time.
they were being both put on that 40, that's why.
They're sharing the same 40 acres.
They're saying, sharing the same 40 acres, and what normally would happen is, what we would see us do is, let's say we were splitting off this farm here up on the corner, then we would lock the remainder of that 40 up and not allow any more homes on it. Now, we have done this in the past as well. It's happened probably 2 to 3 times that I can recall, for sure, in the last 3 years. And what we've done is they have taken adjacent 40 and locked that up, and that is all part of the resolution when you sign off on those. And so it does create another 40 that's locked up with them to keep the density down.
Other questions for Tammy?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0. Public hearing is open. If there's anyone in the chambers that would like to speak on this issue, please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record.
Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street, North Farley, Iowa. I was contacted by Wayne and Teresa about, the possibility of trying to get their son and his family back out there to, basically get, obviously they grew up on the farm, they're familiar with it, but in a case where like this, unless you're truly involved with the financing of it, the actual operation of it, the business end of it, it's really hard to learn a business like this, from the business side of it. And in my own experience, I went through this very same process. We started on halves with my dad, worked our way up to a situation where we ultimately bought out part of the farm and ultimately are on contract on the rest of it. But and that's basically how these things have to transition. But anyway, the intent here is basically to get more family members involved in the operation as Wayne and Teresa get older, and basically have a place to dispose of their property or an estate plan at some point, and have some direction on where it's going. But anyway, we're basically asking for another home on the farm for another family member. The operation is fairly good size, and Wayne and Matt are both here to kind of address, if there's questions about, what the intensity of the farming operation is. But ultimately, we went through several different options, because they also own the farm buildings and stuff across the way, which they also have some hired help occupying at this point. So basically, this seemed like and again, this is north of Farley. It is fairly substantially tillable as far as the farm is concerned, especially along the access to the roads. And this just seemed to be the most out of the way area to put that additional home. Again, it is on the same 40, but in theory, again, we could put it on other 40s, but it wouldn't be any further away from the home, or maybe closer or whatever, but in a little more of a situation where it's in the way. So, but yeah, and I'm going to switch this back here. Sure. Actually, one of the concerns was the other 40, and basically the fact that we've got 2 40s on. I got to make sure I know what I'm looking at here. It's just
There might be a clear one.
this way. Basically, the driveway, as you see it, kind of up along here, the existing house up in this area, The 240s that we're interested in putting the condition on are the two that sit side by side here. I think Tammy was pointing to the south, and that's actually, I believe, another property owner. So we don't, you know, it's basically 240s that are east and west of each other.
Here's a better one.
That, I think there's a little brighter version.
Yeah, it's a brighter version of it.
But, so, you know, I guess the goal is here ultimately to keep this farm in the family and try to get other people involved in it that'll put it a next generation down the road.
And I don't have any objection to that. Please don't misunderstand my questions. I'm not against this. It seems to be exactly what A2 is for. But I just need to understand why I'm seeing a different pattern emerging. And when I was looking at what Tammy sent to me, I didn't see the word estate, you know, for estate purposes. It says continue or promote family operations in the area and in the family, and that's perfect. That's fine.
And so, yeah, and as far as the board members' concern about it, you know, it's not it's not typical to have unanimous on everyone. There's usually somebody with questions or concerns. In this case, we happen to have one, I think there's
Right. It was a
five that
five
had a
more.
concern on it, so. Anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, and like I say, Wayne and Matt are here too, if you have any questions as far as the family's intent or size of the operation.
Thanks, Steve. Right. If there's anyone else that would like to speak on this matter, we are in public hearing. You can approach the podium. If you do so, please give your name and address for the record. Seeing none?
Motion to close the public hearing?
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0.
Motion to approve the amendment to the zoning ordinance?
I will second
To the
that.
zoning.
I will, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0.
Motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings?
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the requirement for passage at 2 prior meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried.
Motion that the amendment be adopted and the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map, and that the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Carried 3-0. It's approved. All right, our next case, it's case ZC number 07-21-19. Dawn Greenwood, also known as Dawn Hans, A1 Agricultural to A2 Agricultural Residential.
Okay. The applicant is requesting rezone from A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural residential, 1.151 acres, to be allowed to build a new home on the farm. The property located 1.13 miles south of the city of Farley along Farley Road is legally described as the south half of the northwest of the southeast, section 24, T88 North, R2W, Dodge Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by Dawn Greenwood. Zoning in the area includes A1 agricultural to the north, the south, the east, and the west. A2 agricultural residential to the south. The A2 agricultural residential to the south on zoning case number 0414 of 16 was to separate the home from the farm ground and farm buildings for estate purposes. There are no special use permits attached to this property, and there are no previous rezoning cases attached to this property. 4 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners, and the city of Farley was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agricultural Natural Resources, page 134, Objective 3.1, and Chapter 8, Housing, page 122, Objective 12.7 may apply to this case. As you can see, again, the boxed-in area is the area that's proposed to have the rezoning. And Dawn is doing a plat to separate that as well. And this is for, her parents are currently living in this home, and it is on a separate 40. And Dawn is coming out here to move out in here. Her parents are helping her farm. It's Dawn's farm, and she's coming out, locating herself out there now because her parents are aging.
Any questions for Tammy?
I'll open up a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried, 3-0.
Again, Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. Very similar situation, a little bit different in the fact that Dawn already owns the land. She had acquired it from her parents. Her parents still live in the existing farmhouse. They've got younger kids that are getting to the age where they can help, and her dad's predominantly doing a lot of the planting and that sort of thing at this point, and they've got to start transitioning into it because of her parents are getting to the point where at some point somebody's going to have to know what they're doing out there. So the goal is ultimately to get out on the land that they own and start being more available to keep pushing it forward. And like I said, it already is entitled into the next generation. It's just a matter of moving them in there. Again, there's no intent to sell this off, and their hopes is that one of their kids ends up in the house that her parents are on, so.
Any questions for Mr. Schneider? Okay, thank you. All right, we are in public hearing. If there's anyone else to speak on this matter, please go to the podium, give your name and address for the record.
Dawn is here if you have any questions for her as well.
Apparently not. So, what's your pleasure?
Motion to close the public hearing.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0.
Make a motion to approve the rezoning.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the rezoning. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0.
Motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0.
Make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map, and that the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. It is approved. All right, next case would be case ZC number 07-22-19, Diane Simon and Nick Simon, A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural residential.
Okay. The applicants are requesting a zone from A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural residential, 2 acres, to be allowed to build a new home on the farm. The property, located 0.42 miles north of the city of Farley along Cemetery Road, is legally described as Lot 1 of Simon Farm Subdivision, Section 5, T88 North, R1W, Taylor Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by Diane Simon. Zoning in the area includes A1 agricultural to the north, the south, the east, and the west, A2 agricultural residential to the north and to the west, R1 rural residential to the west, the A2 agricultural residential to the north on zoning case number 0521 of 18 was to separate the home from the farmland. The A2 agricultural residential, the R1 rural residential to the west on zoning case number 0718 of 2000 was to rezone 1 acre to allow for a single-family home. The R1 rural residential to the west on zoning case number 0628 of 95 was to rezone 1 acre to allow for a single-family home. There are no special use permits attached to this property, and there are no previous rezoning cases attached to this property. 9 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners, and the city of Farley was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agricultural Natural Resources, page 134, Objective 3.1, and Chapter 8, Housing, page 122, Objective 12.7 may apply to this case. So Nick is her son, and Nick owns, I'm going to show you this, I'll give it a little clearer first. Nick owns the farmland around this property. Nick is going to come in, and this is one of those where it's building on the same 40 as well, okay? Nick is going to come up in here and build, and his intent is to own all of it someday, with the intent that he's building on there, and then eventually one of his kids would move into the farm home down the road at some point. So the intent is to continue the farming operation, and Nick will end up, his intent is to purchase the rest of this land from his mom someday.
And Nick's already farming.
And
is
Nick is
already
already
farming.
farming all around there already, yes.
And does he have a separate home on a separate 40 acres?
No, Nick's living in town. He's living in Epworth, yeah. I had to question myself on that, sorry.
Again, I'm just trying to understand
Yep,
how this fits
absolutely.
together.
So this is Nick's
From-
intent, is to get out here because he's out here helping his mom, and his intent's to take it over.
Absolutely. Motion to open the public hearing?
I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried, 3-0. Okay, we're
Again, Dave.
open for public hearing. Please give your name and address.
Dave Schneider,
record.
Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. Just sitting here looking at all three of these last three projects that I've been up here for, there's a huge change in the farming situation out here, including myself being in a very similar situation. These younger people that are getting on these farms obviously grew up there, love farming, but because of the farm situation, their parents' age, weren't able to get into it at a younger age. They're working off-farm jobs, every one of them, including myself, and basically are trying to figure out how to transition themselves in, be closer so they're not driving from Epworth. I was living in Piasta, farming in Holy Cross, running a survey business out of Farley. I mean, we're trying, if you're not there on the site, how do you keep an eye on things? How do you really see the day-to-day? But it's nice to have that second person there as well, keeping an eye on things when you're not. You know, all of my neighbors, or a good share of them, do the same thing I do. They're working second, third shift and farming during the day, or they're working farming in the morning, going to work, and farming at night. So, you know, we're going to see a lot more of these as people get older that are on the farms, and as the younger generation tries to transition in. But anyway, it's again, Nick does currently farms all the ground that his mom owns. He rents it from her, and basically looking at building a house out there. We had an alternate site, and we were setting it up for the A2 zoning, and he said, well, what if I decide to move it after the fact? I said, where do you really want to build your house? And this was basically where they wanted to build it. It's a little rocky knob that's kind of, the soil's thin anyway. And so that's, and as far as the other home, yeah, maybe one of the kids ends up, maybe it just gets bulldozed someday. There's no real answer on that at this point. Nick is here to answer any questions you may have, but you know, we're going to see, we've seen a lot of this, and we're going to see a lot more, in my mind, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public hearing is open. If there's anyone else to speak on this matter, please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the request for rezoning from A1 to A2. Any further discussion? One of the things, when we have relatively new folks go on the boards, a lot of times, you know, until they find their way, if they're not sure, they vote against it. And I know over the years, we've, you know, had a lot of cases that weren't unanimous, and I think it's just, I think that's healthy, you know, to get other, you know, get viewpoints out there. But so anyway, all right. Any other
Might
discussion?
I also make a comment then, as a person who's new to the board? I've attended zoning training, and my questions have been that estate planning is not, and it is not in our zoning code. And so we want to be sure that the language that we use for purposes of being legal is what we have in our zoning ordinance. Otherwise, it becomes kind of just friends and kind of we just know. Well, we don't just know when it comes down to how we record our zoning changes. So that's the point that I make this be, that these are two examples where normally we would just let zone, you know, estate planning rules the day, but that's not in the zoning ordinance. That's not in how we do that. So that's the point. It isn't, you know, I appreciate people bearing with me as we explore that, but it's not as if I need to be coming along.
Just a little comment to that. You know, I think the term estate planning was just kind of a term that is being used to describe the way that people are trying to figure out how to transition these farms. You know, they're trying to bring kids, their children's spouses, their children's kids in on these things with the desire that they're able to,
Right.
you know, manage them, you know, push them forward,
Right.
you know, until they get out there and actually experience it and decide whether this is something that they can or will be able to do.
We
So-
have
so I
this
think it's-
conversation happening in my family right now.
Yeah, so, you know, the estate planning thing, I think, is just kind of a generalized term for what these people are trying to do with you know, in most cases, fairly valuable estates without, you know, basically selling them out of the farm and at the top dollar and basically running the rest of the younger generations out of the business, so. So, yeah, I guess I'm not sure how that fits into your ordinance, but, you know, again, you sit at these meetings and, you know, I understand where, one of the board members is coming on these things. They in their mind say each 40 should be able to have a house on, we don't want 2 40 houses on a 40. And I'm saying, look at it as a density thing, that if you're tying up 2 40s as far as the condition, you're basically doing the same thing. Your net units per 40 is still the same, so I guess it's really just their interpretation of what the intent of the A2 zoning was, so,
Thank you, Mark.
right, thank you.
And then just if I may, in moving forward, when we move forward with everything in the department, those are the things that our board do want to talk about. Maybe looking at the ordinance and making what I call tweaks to the things that aren't perfect and try to get them a little better that it works out, okay?
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map and that the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The case is approved. All right. Next, under public hearings is notice of public hearing for the ATV UTV ordinance.
If I might, I'd ask that the county attorney be asked to come in.
Sure. Is he in the chambers?
He was, but he's not here at this time.
Maybe.
Thanks, Sheriff.
We want to recess or?
I wouldn't mind a break. I'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Recess for 5 minutes.
Good timing. Quick.
All right, I have found an omission on my part, my apologies. So I'm gonna backtrack here. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we should have done public comments. And so I'm gonna do that at this time. Public comments at this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are on the agenda. And please go to the podium, state your name and home address if you have any comments on any items which are on the agenda. And at the end of the meeting, there will be public comment for things not on the agenda. But, and if you speak, please give your name and address for the record. So we are open to public comments.
Wayne Demmer, 9018 Lone Pine Road, Epworth, Iowa. I'd like to adjust the item J for the change in the general assistance. I guess my question is, has this been discussed in any previous meeting that's been open to the public? I haven't seen anything, and I understand that this resolution just came about. So that's my question, and I mean, I don't know if you can answer that, but, today, again, we have something on the agenda to spend money that I know of with no public discussion. Also, I guess I wanted to address this issue that we have in the past, and this came up 3 years ago when I was on the board on this change. The same thing again, trying to outsourcing money to probably a friend, Mr. Wickham. I really have issues when we don't go out for RFPs and we're handing out county tax dollars without justification. I guess the question I have is, has there been a problem with the VA running this? At the time, they stepped up to the plate years ago and took this over as part of their job without hardly any additional staff to take care of this, so which was a win-win for the Dubuque County taxpayers. At that time, we were spending more money to take care of the program than we were handing out to help out people. I guess my other question is, I see they're talking of $30,000 for part of a year, and I hope there will be discussion, but then again, on an action item, it says it does not have to be discussed. But what will be a full year? Will it be 40,000? 3 years ago, Mr. Jasper was willing to do this for 10,000. So why has there been such an increase? And I'm not picking on anybody, but at the time when this happened was when you were new to the board, moved forward, gave directions to our budget director to prepare a voucher to pay Resources United $10,000 to take this over. That's when it came back to the board and we said, this is a 3-person board, no discussion, it didn't happen. So I guess now I'm looking at this 3 years later, same thing again. This is a 3-person board and I think there should be much more discussion. The GA budget is over $110,000, up from $100,000. My question is this $30,000 this year gonna add to the budget? Or are you going to reduce services to the people in Dubuque County? So I would sure like to hear somebody address something because there's nothing been in any minutes of any public discussion.
Okay, are there any other public comments on things that are on the agenda? If so, please approach the podium. Hearing none, we'll move forward. Okay, we're on agenda item number 5, and this is section C, and it's a notice of public hearing regarding the UTV ATV ordinance. And this is a notice of public hearing, so it would be for approval or disapproval of the notice.
Oops, Chair, if you mind.
Yeah.
Since you are having a work session to finalize it, I recommend tabling this until after the words because we will have to publish the final version
Okay.
For a public hearing.
All right, is there a motion to table?
Just Supervisor
Open for
McDonough wanted
discussion.
the county attorney present, so I'm not sure if you've been satisfied or have a question for the county attorney.
Right. What I understand that the board intends to do is to table it at this time because we don't have an ordinance to show you. We don't have an ordinance that can be published. It has big paragraphs in it that say, we should get more input on this, we should get the county attorney's advice. There's at least 2 paragraphs that say that. There's a whole section on penalties that says, we don't know what to do. What the board intends to do is to table a motion for public hearing, to set it for public hearing until this afternoon, when we spend 2.5 hours clerically making the rest of those things happen. And then at the end of that, we will now make a motion to go back to set this for public hearing. Still no ordinance, still no final copy, still clerical error opportunity. So I asked the county attorney to be present for this discussion, to give us some legal advice about, as we've put in hours into this ordinance, we are now at the end and we're rushing through. I'd like to know if you have any hesitation about what we intend to do today. Do you want to be on call for questions throughout the day? I think we're anticipating you're going to be present for 2.5 hours this afternoon. We've kind of cleared our schedule to do ATV business. So that's why I asked you to be present.
Well, I think the bottom line is this, that the ordinance needs to be in its final format before you would set it for publication, because the whole bottom line is that it gives the public the opportunity to address it, make comments, suggestions, whatever. Minor things that would correct something wouldn't be that much of a concern. But if there are some substantive changes to something that would come along, then it would require you to start all over again. So in order to avoid that, it would seem to me that you'd want to have the document completely finalized, all the corrections made, typographical errors fixed, et cetera, and that's when you'd want to set it for a public hearing and then publish it at that point. And then how many meetings you have to approve it is up to you, of course, but I think that's where you need to be at. Whether that can be done by the end of this afternoon, I guess I don't know, but I think that what you want to avoid when, when the day is done is to have to come back and to republish it and kind of start again. Because if you choose to take the 3 readings route, you're just going to be later, obviously. So that would just simply be my suggestion and advice.
So if we proceed today and we come back and we set it for public hearing, any comments or suggestions from any of our cities or towns? Obviously, they've not seen anything yet because we don't have anything to show.
That would be correct. I guess they would.
Difficult to say how we would be consulting them.
From that standpoint, absolutely, Supervisor McDonough. They would be able to come here, I guess, at the readings, or one reading for sure, at the time of its potential passage to make their comments. But again, then if those comments would lead to some substantive changes, you'd have to start again and you'd have to publish it again. So.
Any other questions, Supervisor McDonough? I have a comment, and perhaps I'll direct it to you. I talked to County Auditor Dolan about this, and when we do our budget, for example, we've made changes. There's been other times, public hearings, people raise issues, and we make changes, and that results in a not starting the process over, but a republishing of the final document.
Yes.
Okay, doesn't go back to square one, my understanding.
Square one to me would be the publishing again.
Okay, yeah, the publishing. So there's the extra burden would be republishing.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah, that's probably the bottom line, right?
Okay, all right.
If all else fails.
so there's some clerical work and some cost involved in doing that, but if we are able to get to a final version today, and I was also told by Auditor Dolan that Scribner's errors would not constitute a republication.
Right.
So in other words, if an I isn't dotted or a T isn't crossed, that doesn't constitute a,
Substantive
yeah.
changes that would require
Right.
republication. That's
Okay.
correct. I
All
would
right.
agree with that also.
But what we're talking about here are 30 roads that are listed as points of discussion to be had with cities and towns, 30 roads that we share jurisdiction over. We're not talking about perhaps not putting our comma in the right location. We're talking about substantive things that this board's going to go forward with today. And also, it's to be set for public hearing on August 26th, which is our very next meeting. At that very next meeting, if my colleagues don't say otherwise, we can waive further readings, and you may have an ordinance in effect on August 26th, which I cannot show you today. And so that is my concern, that we are rushing at this. The chance of error, the chance of being wrong and out of step with our public and with our cities and towns is high. And honestly, County Attorney, you were not here last week. You were being greeted at 10 o'clock this morning with a to-do list of you know, helping us draft the final ordinance somehow heroically today.
Well, that's a nice word, Supervisor, thank you, but as always, I'll do whatever I certainly can. I guess that's up to you folks to decide how you want to, move forward after this afternoon, I would think. But I mean,
I
certainly
believe it's-
that work has to be done this afternoon to get
Yeah,
us
I think it's on the
somewhere.
agenda at 2:00, right?
Yeah.
So
at 2
that's,
o'clock
that's,
we're gonna
that's,
gather.
that's when we're speaking about it. And so, from what I heard, you would recommend we would table this notice of public hearing.
That
I'll
I
make a
would-
motion to table the notice of public hearing.
May have done that already, Mary?
I don't think anyone made a motion.
Was there any motion made yet?
Other than the one I just made?
No, okay.
I'll recite my
There's a
motion to
motion.
table the
The-
public hearing.
There's a motion to table the notice of public hearing. Is there a second? I will second it.
Discussion. Mr. May,
I was gonna say discussion, so go ahead.
would it be better that we would take this motion up again in 2 weeks to put it out for publication?
Well, whether it's better or, I think it's a matter of where we would be probably at the end of the 2 o'clock gathering and whether that really is the final document that I guess that the committee is comfortable with, that it wants to submit to you, the full board, for, again, setting it for hearing and publication and then comments from the public and ultimately your vote. So I'm not certain how much more will need to be done yet this afternoon and whether that'll lead to some other discussion. I guess that's hard to say right at this moment. But I think that generally speaking, that, in any of these things, this is a brand-new ordinance, of course. It's a brand-new sort of a freedom, if you will, and I would guess that as much time that could be given to the public to address it is always a good thing, but that's not for me to make that call. So, in fact, when I have court at the 15, but I'll be around, and I'm gonna work on some other things, and I'll be here at 2 o'clock, and we'll knock away at it.
And so if we were tabling this, if my vote were to table this, it would be not to address it again this afternoon at the end of a 2.5-hour work session. We would be tabling this to address the notice of publication at the next board meeting, which is August 26th. That would be what I would be joining this motion on, not to table it and bring it up again this afternoon when there's no one even here in the work session.
I'll
You're
have to go
gone.
back to Supervisor Wickham, who made the motion. You made a motion to table. Were there any stipulations attached to that?
It's to table the notice of public hearing, ATV, UTV ordinance, which is on the agenda, 5C.
Okay.
Until what time?
All table items are tabled and pending until the board addresses those. That's why we're here, right? But I would love to get to 2 o'clock and the rest of the agenda.
And just there is a motion made in second, but under comments, you referenced, going back to the committee. I was part of the committee, as were you. But the committee has clearly ended their work and turned it over to the Board of Supervisors. So it's not going back to the committee. The committee has made their recommendations and it's been disbanded. Okay.
And I have an email from our county engineer who's on vacation this week. That email is dated Saturday, indicating that taking the time to hear the cities, especially those that share a road with us, would not be a bad idea.
I think that'd be a wonderful discussion at 2 o'clock, and hopefully people can stay, but right now we're delaying the public on a lot of other issues.
Is it your intent, Supervisor Wickham, to call this motion back before us today?
I want to get to 2 o'clock and then we'll discuss it. That's for the whole plan. ATV, UTVs at 2 o'clock. Can we talk about that at 2?
And so then I would have to vote against this ordinance when it's called, the
Okay.
motion
Did
to
the chair
table.
call the vote?
I'm about to do so.
Keep moving.
Okay. The motion has been made and seconded to table the notice of public hearing. We have had discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Carried 2-1. All right, next up is agenda item number 6, approval of plats. We'll go to interim zoning administrator Tammy Henry, First item is A, resolution, final plat of Greenwood Farm subdivision, Plat 2, Section 24, Dodge Township.
All right. The property is owned by Dawn Greenwood and is located 1.15 miles south of the city of Farley along Farley Road with a total of 40.676 acres surveyed. The property is zoned A1 agricultural with a pending, which has been an approved zoning case to rezone the 1.151 acres to A2. The purpose of this plat is to build a new home on the farm. The survey creates two lots. Lot 1 is a total of 1.151 acres surveyed, and it will be the site for the new home. Lot 2 is a total of 39.525 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current agricultural use. Lot 1 has a pending residential entrance applied for. Actually, that entrance has been approved under 19-34 since this was done. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat. There are no liens or mortgages on this property, and the plat has been reviewed by myself as plat's officer and has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So this was Dawn's case that we just did the rezoning for. This is the buildable area that she's looking to put the home, and then this is the balance of the property that's all remaining in a lot there.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Tammy?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the final plat. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, next up is agenda item number 6B, resolution, final plat of Simon Farm subdivision, Plat 2, Section 5, Taylor Township.
Okay. This property is owned by Diane Simon and is located 0.42 miles north of the city of Farley along Cemetery Road with a total of 40 acres surveyed. The property is zoned A1 agricultural and now A2 agricultural for the 2 acres. Agricultural residential, the purpose of this plat is to separate the 4.19 acres for estate purposes. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 4.19 acres surveyed, and it will be the site for the new home. The Lot 2 has a total of 35.81 acres surveyed with a home and farm buildings, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 1 will use an approved residential entrance, number 19-30 off of Cemetery Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing residential access off of Cemetery Road. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat. The mortgage holder's acknowledgements are signed and attached, and some of the signatures were over 60 days old, and they included the county treasurer, June 7th of 2019, and county assessor, June 7th of 2019. This plat has been reviewed by myself as plat's officer and has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. Now, the thing you may be questioning is why is this a little larger? The zone, they're putting a larger plat there. The balance of it will stay in agricultural. We did just do the rezoning for the smaller portion of that, and that is the portion that will be, so this will be the rezoned area, and then the balance will stay in agricultural as well. He's just purchasing a little larger piece of land there.
Questions for Tammy?
I'll make a
Not a
motion
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the final plat.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0. It is approved. All right, next up on the agenda, item 7A, resolution, appointment of deputies, assistants, and clerks. Go to our Human Resources Director, Dawn Sherman, for her input on this.
I have reviewed these and recommend approval.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0. 7B, resolution approving the revolving loan for the city of Farley for the purchase of a new fire truck. This is $170,000 at 2%.
And I see
And we-
that Matt's back
Matt,
here,
do
and
you wanna
the
come
Mayor of Farley, Jeff Simon, also here.
Yep.
I know Supervisor McDonough was interested in their attendance last time, so
Bet.
thank you for coming.
Just to give you an update, this did go through ECI Business Growth's Loan Committee review on July 31st. It was unanimously approved. So then we came back to get a resolution passed so we can go ahead and loan the 170,000.
Okay.
It's written at 2%.
Correct.
Does that cover the county's costs?
Yes.
Is there any profit?
Currently, the county has it's a 1% loan, so there's a percent.
But including the fees that we pay to ECIA, does it,
That's outside.
that's outside of this loan?
Correct. Like, the city of Farley will pay a processing fee and closing cost to ECIA for that. And there's also the yearly bill, I guess, that the county does receive for us to administer the loan fund, but you'd still be making a little bit. I didn't calculate the numbers, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know in the past, in my 3.5 years, relationship with the small towns and the revolving loan and EMS and fire loans have been very good and very beneficial and very thankful on both sides that we're able to work together to make sure that you can get the financing needed to get the equipment you need so your volunteers can do community work. So I'm very appreciative of it and happy to be part of it.
I'll echo that as well, and I think down the road with the new Tom Hancock grant even gives more options to our volunteer firefighters. And my understanding is that the Farley Fire Department wasn't able to apply for the zero interest revolving loan because they already have a loan.
Correct.
That's one of the rules.
To Tom Berger this morning, and that's correct.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. What's your pleasure on the resolution?
Unless-
Is there
Mayor
anything
Simon,
for
do you have
me?
any
Oh, I'm
comments?
sorry. Mayor Simon, you want to make any comments?
I want to thank you for your support on behalf of the city of Farley and the surrounding rural community. It's, we're replacing a 1985 truck and a 1995 truck. And it'll help the citizens and the surrounding townships and the surrounding communities. So I want to thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank
for being
you.
here.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried, 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is item 7C, resolution approving the necessary documents with Martin Equipment for the purchase of one 2019 John Deere 772 GXT motor grader. Russell, do you have any input on this? Any comments?
Just that the maintenance department is recommending this motor grader based on the state bid pricing. So I'm sorry, this also includes a $1,000 trade allowance from our 2009 772G motor grader.
Right, it's 295,000 minus 100,000
Yep,
trade-in,
that's
right?
right.
For 195,000 net.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And any other questions or?
Nope, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right. 7D, resolution to approve federal aid swap SWAP funding agreement number 6-19-HBP-SWAP-019 for project BROS-SWAP-C031 and in parentheses 103-FE-31 bridge replacement on Gun Club Road. And again, I guess I'll see if Russell has any input on this.
Yeah, this is just a standard swap agreement for the bridge replacement, and the cost is estimated about $600,000. 100% of the funds is covered by the swap dollars.
Okay?
A motion to approve the resolution?
And I will second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Thank you. All right, next up is 7E. And this is a resolution, approved plans and specifications for the bridge replacement project on Gun Club Road, project BROS-SWAP-CO31 103 FE-31. This is for the plans and specifications.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the plans and specs.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried, 3-0. All right, next up is 7F. It's a resolution approving the agreement with 10X Software Solutions and Henry M. Adkins and Son Incorporated for Precinct Central Live Results Election Night Reporting Software. And my notes say that that's about a contract of about $2,800 per year. And I don't know if we have Jenny or Denise, if they want to speak to this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried, 3-0. 7G, resolution to approve the agreement with ETS LLC for Where You Vote software application. And my notes reflect that's $1,658 per year for the software.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, resolution 7H. A resolution to approve amended resolution 19-144, adding one additional deputy to the sheriff's office. I guess Sheriff Kennedy's here. I don't know if he wants to speak on this, or HR Director Don Sherman. Give us an update on this.
We had a work session at our, during our last meeting. This is, the sheriff was given notice that there's gonna be an extended military absence coming up. And so this was to prepare for that, get them in here early. So you are adding temporarily a new FTE to accommodate the training schedule for this. Again, anticipating that he'll have a long-term leave of absence.
Okay.
Motion
Any
to approve.
questions? Okay, I'm sorry.
And
Go
that,
ahead.
I will second that motion.
Motion to approve the resolution and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Okay, under action items, item number 7I, resolution approving the purchase of 2 Jeep Cherokee Latitudes from Talkie Motors.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the resolution, and 7I. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, 7J, resolution approving the contract with Resources Unite. I do want to point out on the printed agenda, I would say it's just a typo, but it should be Resources Unite, not Resources United. And that is to provide general assistance services.
I'll
And
make a motion to approve the resolution.
there's a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? For the purpose of getting discussion started, I'll second the motion. So we can have discussion. So we're open for discussion.
Maybe I'll start the discussion and see where it goes from there. So, good questions that former Supervisor Demmer had related to this process. And so maybe I'll start with the first ones related to the meetings. He is correct that roughly 3 years ago, we did discuss general assistance moving out to Resources Unite and or other providers. And so that was a topic that was discussed in public, and had its moment. At that time, the board did not move forward with that. Related to specifically this resolution and this change, jump in exactly, either last meeting 2 weeks ago, or possibly sometime in one of the July meetings, we did have it on the public agenda, and we did discuss that. Josh Jasper was actually here and had a conversation with the board, was able to answer some questions. We engaged in, I don't know, 15 minutes, we look at the notes, 20 minutes of dialogue related to that. There were also at least 2 other occasions in public meetings at Operation New View where there were discussions related to general assistance. One of those meetings I attended in which we discussed in a public setting with 30 people at a public meeting related to opportunities for general assistance and a possible change. During those meetings, it was brought up, at least by myself. I know that other providers, including Resources Unite, could be considered. Maybe the opportunity New View did not continue to materialize, probably based on their current positioning. So that's the first thing. So I think we've gone through a few public meetings, and we'll have certainly the public meeting today, and those were real good questions. The reason for the change that I see are really twofold, is that one, we have an excellent Veterans Affairs office and group that does an excellent job serving our veterans, and they should be able to complete their mission dedicated. I think if you walk into the Veterans Affairs office, General Assistance office, you'll just see the pride, the memorabilia on the wall on their, they literally wear it on their sleeve, their care and love for the veterans. I think they've also done a fine job with general assistance, but I think there's other providers out there in the community that can provide that type of assistance. So I see it as a win-win. You get the opportunity for Veterans Affairs to continue to be 100% dedicated to their mission, and we get to be able to use private partners that are outlined in this resolution to help craft our general assistance, which I think we need some additional revisions and additional guidelines changes, and that's exactly what we'll be able to do with this item. I think the other piece that was mentioned was related to the budget. And so at this point, we would have to have a budget amendment in order to allocate the additional $30,000 in expenditures, the way the contract and the resolution is written. And so budget director could comment on that when anticipated that budget amendment may come.
One of the concerns, and I guess that I have had, is the process that we file. We have, when we do our general relief, we have, well, I guess speaking for myself, I'm not a trained social worker, and we have some heart-wrenching stories, and it seems like there's more and more of them lately. I think I have questioned in public the board's previous decision to disband the Human Services Department. I know some of them like to pat themselves on the back for that, and they basically moved that to veterans. I think our Veterans Department has done a good job with the training they have for that, but I think that there are professionals in our community, and I guess some of the things I like about this is I've wanted for some time to have a review of our guidelines that we use, for example, for the allowances for meals for families and that type of thing. I know our previous department was very involved on homeless issues and on issues, outreach to the community. And I don't think we have that now. I think with what they were charged with doing, I think our current staff was doing a good job. But I think that addressing the root cause of the issues, to me, is more important than us sitting up here and one time, lifetime, saying we'll try to help you. I'd like to try to prevent them from getting here and having professionals. And I think, my first inkling was Operation New View. Then with recent developments, I think that's not probably an option at this time. And, because I think that was the agency that I think most people look to. I think now that agency is probably gonna be Resources Unite. I noticed they had a nice story in the paper, and I noticed the Tyson family was in support of Resources Unite. I think that's wonderful. But anyway, I think that, and then I believe that the resolution is to the end of the fiscal year, at which time we could either continue this with it, or we could look at doing RFPs at that time, if we so choose. But it's not required, is my understanding. So I think that also the updating of our guidelines, to me, is an important component in this. And I think that in reading this is part of the scope of service in the contract, and also involving numerous and named organizations in the community. So I guess I'll see if there's any other comments.
Yes, I have comments. It's unfortunate we don't have the agencies here today that have contacted me, both before the public release of this agenda and since. The agencies that have contacted me to express concern about the speed with which we are doing this and the lack of going out for requests for a proposal from other agencies includes ECIA, Operation New View, Hillcrest, the Rescue Mission, HACAP, and that private citizens have been contacting us by email, attempting to phone us this morning. This has only been, even in the public domain, in terms of it even being a discussion item, since the release of our agenda and the agenda packet sometime Thursday afternoon. And the thing that is most concerning to me is that we had a 15-minute meeting in June, and Supervisor Wickham and I went two different directions out of that meeting. After that meeting, I consulted with our veterans to say, does this program work for you? How would you like to make it better? What's your data? What are your outcomes? How have you spent your budget? How many people did you serve? How could you do it better? And the budget director and I have been in the process of collecting back the answers to those questions with the end of the fiscal year. I have had no information from our veterans that they wish to not be in charge of this program. This also was news to them on Thursday at about lunchtime. So there's different ways to go about this. One is to go pre-select someone. Josh and I, you and I have a great relationship, but pre-selecting the same organization that on January 7th of 2017 was in the newspaper, the Telegraph Herald, indicating that you had also pre-selected the same organization, that is not good government. That's not transparent. If we want to make a change, I mean, the veterans are very open to that modernization of guidelines, looking at eligibility, giving internal ability to have an appeal process internally where things can be resolved to see if things can be made better in that office before it comes to us on appeal. That would be a much needed modernization of that. And that's the route that I have gone with the assistance of the budget director, beginning to look at, should we change our Dubuque County general relief policies? We've looked at Lynn County policies. We've looked at Delaware County policies. We looked at Jackson County policies to see how do those counties, I've even consulted the Iowa State Association of County Governments. How does ISAC, they have any recommendations for how this should go? So first exploring it with the employees that we have, our trusted veteran staff, who I might say will continue to do almost the identical thing with veterans. They do almost the same identical paperwork. Instead, what we have done is pre-selected a vendor to give this contract to. The need to go from $10,000 to $30,000 plus has not been explained. To have discussion about this is necessary. It isn't a bad thing. In fact, the veterans asked the budget director and I if we could have a work session to talk about those very changes. So this is occurring. There's conversation happening, but nobody should make that rush on their own as a supervisor and reach out and pre-select an organization. If we wish to change the organization and the structure of how we handle general relief, it's called a request for proposals. This is where this failed in 2017, and I would urge you to look at that again at this time. A request for proposal is not simply going to a meeting and talking about it. It isn't talking about it in front of an empty boardroom and making some public comments. When Josh Jasper was before us, Jay, the minutes you approved this morning said that it was general discussion, general introductions, no financials. This was our takeaway. This was the takeaway from Josh. He was very open about what could he do to be helpful. Perhaps he could provide some training to our veterans, conversation about how things might be made better. There was no discussion. We still don't have a request for proposal from you. As you and I talked, you said, hey, a supervisor came to see me. I'm not going to turn down the opportunity to do general relief, to make a $30,000 administrative fee. I'm not going to turn that down. Well, of course not. But that isn't a request for proposals. If we want to look at how we're going to make this better, we need to make that available to all our social service agencies, including those individuals that I've just listed. They should be consulted as well for the creation of any new programming, for any eligibility requirements, what the new policy should be. There's room for everybody in that discussion before we pre-select a vendor. So I would urge you to not move forward with this. It might be that in 6 months or a year or 18 months, it is Resources Unite. Maybe that will be the outcome, but this is not the way that we should go about it. This is one supervisor taking it again upon himself to proceed. When you said the word win-win, I watched the video last night from the TH archives, and that is exactly the verbiage you used then, with exactly the similarity of coming upon this as something you want to proceed with without ever consulting the employees that are affected and the community at large. If we want to really work on helping people's lives, we have to do it in a way that is transparent and brings everybody in and doesn't set or pit one agency in a position where they're going to be mistrusted by the others. So I just think that this is not the time or the way. It actually discounts the work that Stella and I have been at and the progress that we've been talking about. So I don't know if the veterans feel that they can speak to this. If we have anyone in this room who would like to address where we are at, if the chair wishes to have that happen. But I
I'd
think
like to further some dialogue. So I feel good about being consistent the last 2.5 years. So if I'm using the same verbiage from 2.5 years ago, I think it shows you that that's my intent and that's what I care about. And there's no hidden agenda.
but
This is
what's
this is a change that I've been looking at for 2.5 years. A couple other things I will mention is that, and I left out in our public meetings, is that I've been to the Veterans Affairs meeting 3 times to discuss this. Those are also public meetings and are available to the public, that's correct? Public settings. So this is not anything that's been done behind a curtain. I think I've been pretty transparent in my interest in changing this program. And that's the documents in front of us, and that's the documents and discussion we have, which I welcome. I welcome different opinions. I welcome the dialogue.
why
we
Resources
just
Unite?
have, Well, it wasn't Resources United first. It was Operation New View, right? So I was there. I was at that board. You're on that board. You're on the board. You get the
There was
meeting
no
notes.
quorum notice published. I couldn't be at that meeting to discuss Dubuque County business. So I also confirmed with them that you did not send them a request for proposal. They did not have any follow-up. That was discussed at our board meeting on Thursday.
I was merely commenting about the public and the discussion. And so there has been numerous public discussions about this. So your characterization that it just happened on Thursday, yes, these documents were published on Thursday, but the discussion has been around for quite a while. Similar to ATVs, the discussion's been around for quite a while. At some point, leaders, supervisors, other staff has to put pen to paper. That's where we are today. And that's ultimately what we get to do is decide, and it's okay if we don't always agree. I think our intents are good, and hopefully the public and the group involved see my intent is good, and that I'm trying to improve a process. Veterans Affairs does Veterans Affairs really well. Let's keep them doing that dedicated. Let's use some of our private social services agencies, which are outlined here, to come together to help serve our poor and our needy, because I think that's what they do well. And that's the intent of the documents today, which I fully support.
Why Resources Unite? How did that come about?
Probably 3 years of knowledge and understanding of what they do, and the elimination of Operation New View and their financial difficulties, which, by the way, you voted to send them hundreds of thousands of dollars without an RFP as well. So this is a much smaller amount.
And so on that note, I would perhaps you're not aware of this, but as Operation New View restructures and becomes whatever it will be, they will be looking for significant match dollars to support any other federal dollars that they get. And so when they are ready, whatever that agency will be, that will come about probably over the next full calendar year, this program transitioning to them would give them financial stability in a way that would be a tremendous federal match dollar. They wouldn't be in the situation they're in if they had had significant other match dollars over the years. I mean, we're paying off debt for them because we didn't do matching.
And I hope they're strong and successful. And we'll, like almost every one of our contracts, you revisit them once a year when the fiscal year's over. So there's no forever agreements. We run on a fiscal calendar basis. That's how we fund. That's how the Code of Iowa wants us to behave. And that's exactly what these documents do.
Right.
So we will get additional times to revisit, correct, improve. But it's hard to correct, change, and improve if you take no action. If everything's a no, if everything's a wait. And this is something I feel that we can improve, and I've been studying it, looking at it, talking to people for 3 years. So I feel comfortable for the action today.
Because you chose Resources Unite at
No,
the
the
end of
board
your
will
deliberation.
make that decision, and hopefully we can make that decision shortly.
But you prepared the paperwork before us, Jay. You're bringing Resources United here today.
The board makes the decisions. I'm one of 3.
Would you have any interest in sending out a request for proposal from the various community agencies?
I would be open for a board discussion of that starting July 1. I think it's time to act, and I think these documents, are my intent, and they're intending to act sooner rather than later. Leadership, if we wait for somebody to create a document, then you'll just be waiting. Leadership is about creating documents, creating initiatives, creating public policy to hopefully improve things. And we can disagree about what that is, but that's my view of good government and process. And I feel very good that we've gone through that process. This is 3 years in the making. I understand it's only 6 or 7 months for you, but I've been sitting in these chairs for 3.5 years.
But I've also been attending the Homeless Coalition meetings.
It's wonderful.
I have extensive experience with other providers who provide similar services. And so never would I have thought to go select a charity and have them come before us and have the vote, make a motion to the board to approve transferring our funds to them.
Every February, we do that, and you were part of that in this last year. Every February, we're using tax monies on various community projects. Happens every year. It's been happening for the last 30, 50 years.
I'm not understanding how that's relevant to general relief and transferring without any notice to our own staff.
Funding community-based organizations, social services agencies, we fund them every year. This would be another example of that. Happens to be more targeted to an existing program we have. But, you know, we just had the Visiting Nurses Association in front of us and approved an agreement with them for $200-some thousand. It's not new. It's what Dubuque County's been doing for quite a while. This contract with Resources Unite is new, and that's probably why there's always change and new. Makes people uncomfortable, they fear. I don't, I've seen their work, I've been in their office. I've talked to others, I think they do really good work, and I think this will be a positive item. So those are my final comments.
And I'm gonna comment on this. I was actually new on the board when the Resources Unite proposal came up. You know, it was as part of budget. And I wasn't comfortable at the time because I hadn't been through, I don't even know if I had been through a general relief meeting to that point. And, but I do not like the way that we handle general relief. We sit up here and the folks come in and, you know, we act as Pontius Pilate. You know, we help when we can, we wash our hands and we say, don't come back. Again, I would like to see them not have to come here and have guidance and resources. We were willing over the last couple months, if it was Operation New View, to, you know, because, you know, we sit on that board, and, you know, the developments with Operation New View, and I think in talking to John Wilson, the interim executive director, they're probably not in a position right now to take on a program like this, even for less than a year. And I think that during this year, if Mr. Jasper and his organization, and I do like the fact that they have multiple heads in the tent, if you will, on multiple organizations as part of Resources Unite. I believe that that's a positive, and that he's referenced in this contract is referenced numerous community organizations. So I got called. I wasn't aware that this was gonna be a contract for us on the agenda. We can't talk to each other about these issues, and we don't. And I think we've had that discussion in the past. But I do have some history. I did have a lengthy meeting with Mr. Jasper some time ago, and you know, I think there's a lot of good organizations in our community, and I think his is one of them. You know, we were willing to hand this off to Operation New View, and there was really no, pushback. And we're not, I guess I question for Dawn, I'm gonna ask, is there a requirement that this would go to an RFP?
No, neither by code or your policy, your admin policy, because it is a professional service.
Okay. And the fact that Supervisor Wickham has met with the Veterans Board, Veterans Affairs, on numerous occasions gives me some comfort. The fact that this is short-term, and if in this short term, if Resources Unite is able to update and, because I don't want to wait a year and a half or 2 years or whatever for updated policies. So if they accomplish that and help some folks not come to us so we have to play Pontius Pilate, I am leaning towards going in that direction, because I am very much not comfortable with how we handle general relief at this point. And again, I'll go back and say, I think our mistake was made several years ago by a different board, taking the people who were professionals, who were out in the community, and eliminating those positions. And, I think that it was done for, strictly for financial. I think they eliminated, some supervisory positions. But I also think at the time they tried to, the board tried to push it on Operation New View with no remuneration. And that was met with, by the Operation New View board, was not very happy about that. So I guess that's all I have to say.
So I have a few other things then. First of all, the Iowa Code requires that a citizen have the right of appeal to us. We will still be, people will still be coming before us. There's nothing that Resources Unite can do to eliminate the opportunity for appeal to the Board of Supervisors. So that remains unchanged. If you don't like that part of this job, that is part of the job. Secondly, when the board discussed a very general concept of going to Operation New View, in that meeting, I voted no. I said, Operation New View, we are working on things with veterans. I voted against that. The two of you proceeded to say we should go to Operation New View, and we should ask for a request for proposal, which is a word that you have used, Supervisor Wickham, but you have not followed through on that. There is concern about confidentiality, about the confidentiality of the folks who come before us. We get notices of pieces of paper. They are required to be reviewed with password protection. The paperwork is shredded at the end of the day. There are concerns already that exist, Josh, about how Resources Unite uses confidentiality. That already exists in our community, and that has to be done at the highest level of not putting people on Facebook and not having other people be present. You'll have to have closed rooms, closed times when these folks are meeting with you in terms of general relief. It isn't the same as just having Loras College interns and students from Western Dubuque present. You told me you are a staff of one. You told the Telegraph Herald your office visits with 20,000 people a year. That's 1 out of every 5 people who live in Dubuque County, including the babies. It's not believable that you provide that level of service with one person. Now we're handing you $30,000. Is that money going to be taken from the benefits that are going to be paid? Or are we just making another example of where we're spending taxpayer dollars of $30,000, sending it off to someone, to an agency, without being sure of writing in what we're going to get back? We don't have a request for proposal from you, so we don't have discussion about whether your agency is the proper fit. So in terms of waiting 18 months, no one is suggesting we wait 18 months to make changes. I've been working with the budget director. I have been getting information and statistics back from the veterans staff about this. So there are people working on this in the proper channels inside the county. I'm sorry you don't think that it works quickly enough. Sometimes government just takes time to make sure you have the right people in the room to be working on the things that they know how to do best. So, many times on this board, I feel as though it is the way you want it to be, and all you have to do, you told me when we met before I was sworn in, that all you gotta do is persuade one other person to join you, and then things will go your way. So sad to say, I'm seeing that here today, that it's an idea that you have had, and you have one other person to be persuaded. I don't think this is good government. Citizens are not prepared for this.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed?
Nay.
Carried 2-1. Next up is agenda item number 7K, resolution for temporary road closure for New Vienna St. Boniface Parish Labor Day picnic.
Motion to approve?
I will second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion to
Carried.
recess?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion to take a brief recess. Say 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Did you want to
What's
take a
that?
vote on that?
All in favor of recessing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's in her station.
Do we want to look at scheduling? Sheriff said he needs an hour and 45 minutes.
Well, I think we can get through this rather quickly. We're behind
We're
about
still
an hour.
we're still in the meeting.
Well, we gotta get through the meeting, so
Right.
let's, all right. We ready? You ready, Mary? All right. We're on item number 8 on the agenda, communications. We got, annual, we got A, B, and C, and this is correspondence that the board receives and files without taking action. And annual MMP update, Terry Miller, Miller Custom Hogs, number 67333. 8B, annual manure management plan update, Jason Kusick, Q's Piggy Bank Pork LLC, number 69001. Under A and B, those are similar renewals. I'm gonna ask that we have discussion on item C.
Okay.
So A and B, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to receive and file the annual manure management plans.
Okay, is there a second?
Are we taking both of those?
Yeah, A and B, yeah,
Second.
receive and file. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So under 8C,
You want that set for some kind of action?
Well-
For next month meeting?
this is this is a communication. I just wanted to, I guess just the letter, and we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and on that. So I guess I'm okay with receiving and filing just the letter, because we're not taking action on it, so.
Make a motion to receive and file the correspondence relative to item C, the NACO Leadership Academy.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made to receive and file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Carried 3-0. On the agenda, item number 9, we have appointments. So we have A1, MHDD Stakeholder Committee, 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2021. 1 vacancy for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2022. We have the applications of Shirley Horseman and Linda Duffy. What's your pleasure?
For the mental health, I'm gonna ask that we table. Move to table.
I'll second that
Okay,
motion to table.
motion made and seconded to table, A1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0 to table. All right, A2, Historic Preservation Commission, 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending December 31, 2020, and that is the application of Mr. Keith Wolf.
Motion to approve.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0. All right, item A3, Tom Hancock Grant Committee. We've got Tom Berger, the EMA Coordinator, President of the Dubuque County Firefighters Association, Robin Ludovici, President of the Dubuque County EMS Association, Jim Benke. Then we have 2 vacancies for four-year terms ending June 30th, 2023. And that would be applications of Courtney Schultz and Melody White.
Dawn, can you kind of help us with this? Where are we?
Yep, so this was, you approved the formation of this committee by resolution earlier this year. It does have to be gender balanced, you have a 7-member board. 3 of them by resolution are designated positions. So the 2 presidents of the association and the EMA coordinator is appointed to this by your resolution. With the gender balance, you do need to have, we posted out, which it is posted now. If you have to strive to make that balance, you do have 2 female appointees, you already have 3 males appointed to it. If we're not able to get 3 females appointed or applications within 90 days, then you can appoint it, then you can go be not gender balanced at that time. So you do also have, as a board, to appoint your own supervisor to this as well. And that would count toward the gender balancing of it as well.
So if we approve these 2, we'll have 2 women joining the board. If I'm the Board of Supervisor member, that will be 3 females. Does that get us to gender balance then?
Yes.
And then we would still have a vacancy,
We still have a vacancy that
but it could be
you
filled by
as
a
the-
man or a woman?
Correct.
And then, do you know if this committee intends to move forward with 1 vacancy?
I do not know. I know he was looking at opening up the applications in the September time period, so he would have some time to fill this before those would go out.
So I don't know what the board wants to do. If you, we're either looking for, if we go forward with this, how do we not push ourselves into a 90-day wait for gender balance?
Because right now, the whole committee is not appointed, and so there's vacancies, so they can continue as long as they have a quorum to do business. But if we're looking for a female for the next 90, well, actually, it's been posted for a little bit, for 90 days, and I'd have to check with Tracy. At that time, then you can appoint of either gender, you could appoint a male at that time.
Right. Does the board have any interest in having me serve on this that would facilitate and fulfill the gender balance?
I would like to, I mean, I have, since I've been on the board, been part of the Dubuque County Firefighters Association. And so I would be interested in serving on this. But if it boils down to where we need it for gender balance, then I would do that. But I would like to wait and see if we can come up with another female.
But in front of us now, we have 2 applicants that are both female.
That is correct.
And if we appointed them, we would be moving in the direction of gender balance, right?
Yes.
That's where I would lean towards.
Right, and I think that's the
They
action.
seem, as I've read through their applications, I don't know either of them personally, but they seem to have a care and a passion for EMS and fire.
Right. So I think that would be the appropriate action at this point, is to appoint or approve the applications of Courtney Schultz and Melody White, and then we can talk about, we can schedule a meeting or work session to discuss the balance of the board, but,
And the board's appointee as well.
right.
So I'll make a motion to approve Courtney Schultz and Melody White to the Tom Hancock Grant Committee.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried, 3-0. All right, we have, under item 9B, open vacancies on the boards and commissions for informational purposes only.
So then this raises a question, on item number 10, notice of vacancy for the Tom Hancock Grant Committee. It says it must be a Dubuque County resident. Does that need to be identified that you're looking for a female?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
You have 2 women, and you've identified gender in many of these, but you have not in Tom Hancock.
We will need to now, since the board has not appointed theirs at this time, so we'll have to, we'll update that to include a female.
That we are looking for a female resident.
Correct.
Okay. I think one of the problems is that there's a woman who would like to serve, but she doesn't live in Dubuque County.
I believe that was in your resolution when you approved it, that it was Dubuque County residents.
Okay. I think we have a little time to sort that out, and I said if it boils down to that,
I understand, I'll be last choice.
well, I've spent 3 years and attending those meetings and being involved with the Firefighters Association, and I'm proud of that, so. All right, go to item 10, personnel requisitions. We have permanent full-time facilities maintenance worker, one position. And I was kind of surprised when I saw this. So we have a resignation, is that correct, Dawn?
Correct. Positions are replacing vacancies due to resignations.
Okay.
Do we need to take them separately, Mary?
Okay, so we have the 10A, permanent full-time facilities maintenance worker, one position.
Motion to approve.
I will second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. 10B, permanent full-time deputy sheriff, jail, one position.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel requisition.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0. All right, 11, tabled and pending items. I think the UTV, ATV we have scheduled for this afternoon. 11B, general assistance program. That had been previously tabled. I think we already addressed that. 11C, strategic planning.
No,
Items to
the
share?
purpose of the tabled and pending items is if someone wants to take them off, that's my understanding. This is the first time we've had them on our agenda.
I'm fine with them on.
All right. All right. We're at the point in the agenda, item 12, public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to you, to that person, which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Please be aware the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. So if anyone would like to speak under public comments on things that are not on the agenda, please do so at this time.
Morning, Wayne Demmer, 9018 Lone Pine Road, Epworth, Iowa. I'll be very brief. We have a good group of people here and I'm gonna get out of here. But anyway, comment earlier, you talked about ordinance. And my first question is, an ordinance, once you get into an ordinance, is very strict. You have to go through public hearings and everything to make changes. I know I've often said something as big as what you're doing with the ATV, utilizing a policy, and once you get a critique, to look at that, possibly an ordinance. The second thing is, I agree with what Ann was saying this morning, that when you print an ordinance, you better have it, you like to have it fairly close so that the people out there have a general idea, instead of this wide open thing and say, well, we can adjust, because we know public hearings that you have may make changes, so that's just a comment. The other thing I want to comment that's on the agenda again this afternoon, and I don't feel it'll probably be open to the public, but the ATV safety discussion, $30,000. Now, when I started riding motorcycle, I went and paid for a safety committee, even though I had been riding. But why, I guess to me, is if we're going to do something, let the people, if they want to ride these, be responsible and take safety courses and try to do this. I think $30,000 here. We're looking at $20,000 for signs. We're looking at no discussion on what it's going to cost the road department for personnel and everything else. It just seems to be kind of an endless pit of how we continue to throw money at something that has been a very small request for the percentage amount of people. And I understand it's passed, I go with that. But at the same time I'm just trying to say is, seriously consider spending $30,000 on safety. If these people, this committee wants to do that, let them do the advertising to promote it. So with that, I will leave you. I'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we know a time that we might be doing the 12 o'clock meeting?
Want to have discussion on times? We have 10:15.
Are we at
It's
public
11:15. We're an hour behind.
We're on public comments still?
Any other public comments? Does anyone else with public comments, please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing none.
I will make a motion to recess.
There's a motion to recess. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to recess. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried 3-0. Do we want to,
I'm okay to keep moving.
Roll
I
in.
just know Mary needs a start and stop on the official meetings.